NFL owners voted on a resolution unanimously, I believe, to allow players to compete in the 2028 Summer Games in Los Angeles. This is massive. Honestly, I didn't think this would happen, but today I'm going to tell you my starting five for offense and defense and go over my reasoning for those. And I got some roster restraints for myself in this video, so I'm going to go through those real fast. So, of course, I'm talking about my home country where I'm from, the United States. So this is for Team USA. Of course, flag football, you don't have 11 on 11, it's 5 on 5. So, this is who I'm rostering for Team USA. Obviously, some people might not play for the United States if they are in the Olympics, whether they themselves are not a born American or aren't an American citizen, or maybe they're representing a parent of theirs that isn't American, such as Kyle Hamilton, who I did have rostered until I saw that he announced that he would be playing for South Korea. So there's that. More restraints that I put on myself. No one that was a rookie last year. So if you're drafted in 2024, honestly, I don't know enough about these players and how they're going to play. So I just kind of said, maybe not. But, there's excellent players there like Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, Jaden Daniels. There's great players for flag football in that class. But I'm just kind of, taking a step back. We'll see how they play out. 2028 is a far ways away, so it's very likely that we'll see one or two or maybe more players from that draft class in the Olympics. And obviously, if I'm not including last year's draft class who'd have played snaps in the NFL, I won't be including this year's draft class. But, caveat, I think Travis Hunter would be an excellent selection. Flag football is 5 versus 5, so 5 offense, 5 defense, and it's a limited to 12-person roster. Travis Hunter would fill a slot as a cornerback and a receiver, so that's good. You're not worried about injury as much because it's not contact. We know Travis Hunter could easily do two 20-minute halves, so I'm not worried about him there. So basically, even if he isn't performing in the NFL as well as he was able to in college, like comparatively, he's still probably good enough to play in the Olympic Games as a wide receiver and a cornerback, or even in one of the 2 spots of extra players to just slot in when he's needed. He has a spot on the team. I'm confident in that already. And this is my last constraint. I'm not picking players that will be over the age of 30 when 2028 games come around. I'm not saying that players over 30 can't compete. Because honestly, if Lamar Jackson is still playing the way he does now when 2028 comes around, he's probably the quarterback for the flag football team. I'm not looking for a Patrick Mahomes at the level he's at. I'm not looking for Josh Allen. I'm not looking for Joe Burrow. I want someone like Lamar Jackson. Highly mobile, but not just highly mobile. He can run the ball if needed. He's going to avoid defenders very easily. He doesn't have an offensive line. It's flag football. So just being able to avoid getting sacked is more important than getting the ball out a lot of the time. So Lamar Jackson can do both. I have very high confidence that Lamar Jackson will probably be at least asked if he's willing to represent the United States in the flag football event at the Olympics. But that being said, no players that will be over 30, just because, once you turn 30, you're apparently geriatric, and also there's a chance that injuries pile up. That's when you start slowing down for a lot of players at least. So that's just kind of a line I drew. And, if these are the players representing us, they also have a chance of representing us again in the next one. And also, I did pick a lot of players that would be like 29 in the Olympics. So I kind of skirted by that rule just because these are players that we already know a decent amount about and we know how they play. I'm going to start with defense because I feel like my offensive picks are going to be a lot more questionable. So how I structured my defense was I have my rusher, who's going to be Micah Parsons as my starter. Basically, get to the QB. That's his job. If they're passing off to a running back, get to him. But, if it gets a little further than that, for a safety linebacker kind of position, and this one's questionable because I'm not sure he would be playing for Team USA. There's a chance he wouldn't. Jeremiah Owusu Koroma. I know I just butchered his name. I'm so sorry. The reason I say questionable is he just had a really serious injury, 1, and 2. I think there's a high likelihood that if there is a team for Ghana, he would probably represent Ghana. But, he's kind of an undersized linebacker with a ton of speed. I feel like kind of as a hybrid linebacker safety, I think he would be a great competitor in flag football. It's just those injuries, and also I think there is a high likelihood that he would choose to represent his father's home country of Ghana, as he has shown to represent Ghana throughout the NFL season. So whether he competes for the U.S., Ghana, I think his mom's from England, whoever he chooses to represent, best of luck to him. I hope to see him playing again. I know he won't be playing this season, but he is a fun player to watch. But yeah, that is a questionable pick. I also almost put Kyle Hamilton down, and then I saw that he basically already said that he'd be playing for South Korea. So maybe Reed Blankenship can fit in this, how I'm envisioning a defense for flag football. I went ahead and I slotted in 3 cornerbacks that I personally really like. We have Sauce Gardner, great cornerback, of course. Pat Surtain II, one of the best. Didn't he just get Defensive Player of the Year? I think, yeah. And then, my favorite, Jalen Johnson of my Chicago Bears. I love Jalen Johnson. Great player. He made me really happy when the Bears played against the Vikings and I had Jordan Addison rostered because Justin Jefferson was actually locked down for once. So Jordan Addison got me a lot of fantasy points. Also, he's a great leader for the team, The team rallied around him, and he was kind of the guy that got Eberflus fired. Tyreek Stevenson did his own thing that helped lead to that, but Jalen Johnson, his speech in the locker room that he supposedly gave, which I kind of believe, is really what finally did it. So, mad respect for Jalen Johnson, one of my favorite players in the league right now. So yeah, let's move on to my offensive picks. I'm going to start off with, I did put a running back down. Not every play needs a running back. Off by 1 year, but I really wanted David Montgomery because great running back. He can also throw the ball really well, has great vision. There's a ton of upside to David Montgomery in flag football as in any offensive package. If you want him to play QB as a surprise, he can do that. If you want him to just take the snap as a QB, he can do that. If you want him to run a ball, he can. He has hands, I think. He can catch a ball, I think. Pretty sure. He's done it. I went ahead and I put in Jahmyr Gibbs as a running back, but running backs are pretty limited, being that within the 5-yard line you can't rush. So, maybe for those situations where rushing just isn't an option, maybe take out Jahmyr Gibbs, throw in another wide receiver, maybe a CD Lamb or JSN, I think would be solid picks because they're also not people I had rostered. Let's get into wide receivers before I get into the two things that are actually going to get me some real flack I can feel. Let's start off with my wide receiver 1 for this team, Ja'Marr Chase. I don't really need to say anything. Highest paid wide receiver in the league. Yeah, he's Ja'Marr Chase. He's just that good. Wide receiver 2, which is really weird, Justin Jefferson as my number 2 option. 2 amazing players, and they are going to be absolutely smoking all those like Slovenian welders, okay? They will not know how to handle Ja'Marr Chase and Justin Jefferson. But someone has to throw them the ball. But before someone can throw them the ball, someone has to snap that ball. Because yes, there are centers in flag football, and I want my center to also be a tight end, a big-bodied guy that can move downfield, take up a lot of space. And there's one guy who I absolutely love in this position and I think would do a great job. It's Cole Kmet for me, pretty easily. He'll be under the age of 30, believe it or not. A lot of good tight ends are a little older, except for Brock Bowers. But Cole Kmet, top 4 tight end in the league. Very comparable stat lines to players like Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, and George Kittle, while receiving like a third or a quarter of the targets as someone like Travis Kelce, who received like 150 something, while this past year Cole Kmet got like 30. But if you get the ball in Cole Kmet's hands, he has like the lowest drop rate among tight ends. He makes space. He's great. He can snap the ball. Special teams player week 5 of this past year, I believe, for being long snapper. So I think Cole Kmet, in my opinion, is a great option to be our center / tight end type position in flag football. He can move. There's really no blocking. So everyone that has concerns about Cole Kmet not blocking, he can't. It's against the rules. So just a small bit of Cole Kmet glaze from me. And this is the pick that's going to be the most controversial. Do I think this player is likely to be the representative for Team USA? No. But I would love for him to be. It's Justin Fields. I said I wanted Lamar Jackson. So I'm going to settle for Lamar Jackson light. I've always been a fan of Justin Fields. He just hasn't been in a system that truly benefited him. I think the Steelers were a better team with him playing under center rather than Russell Wilson. And I do think the Bears are better now than they were. But I think the Jets will be a lot better this year than they were last year. I think Justin Fields in flag football can really use his leg and arm talent both to complement each other very nicely. Of course, he can't rush in those 5-yard situations. But if the lane is open, he can just run the ball. If it's not, he does have an arm on him. So, there's a lot to love about Justin Fields' game, especially in a flag football scenario where there's not really going to be contact. So you're not worried about him running and getting hurt. He's just going to run. He's going to get yards, maybe a first down, maybe a touchdown. I think he's a great option. I want a guy like Lamar. Justin Fields is like Lamar, a little different, a little younger. Anyways, that's my starting 5 for offense and defense with a couple extra swaps in there just in case players don't want to do it or they want to play for another country. However, it all lays out. But yeah, I know I put a lot of restrictions on myself, but I want to know what you guys think. Who do you want to see representing Team USA in the 2028 Olympic Games for flag football? If you're from outside the U.S. and you follow football, Let me know what players you want to see on your nation's team, if you know of any that would. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. See you next time.